Chapter 13. Twice Upon a Mattress. The gingerbread house was coming together. Only a few major elements remained to place and play. The signals, the sidewalks, the wintry trees bestrewn candy that spoke of decorations, and of course, the gingerbread ponies as well. Carol looked up and awaited her return with the decorated denizens of the project. He tilted his head as he saw her standing over them. At once, the sound reached him, the one that made him sigh. Kara tried the length of the kitchen to where she stood beneath the window. There, a countertop arrayed with all that a properly dressed gingerbread pony would desire sat awaiting her use. Most were done. They sat upon a cooling rack, waiting for their turn to be added to the project. You already guessed what brought her work to a standstill, what made her stop in the midst of their project. Right in front of Cupcake stood one little gingerbread pony, a foal that stood there incomplete under her gaze. Her sighs rose to meet him as he sat beside her. Outside the window, families were going by. Earth Pony families, Pegasus families, Unicorn families all trotted past. Happy families made up of mares, stallions, and foals. Families that had foals. He nuzzled her. As she leaned into him, she was careful to avoid the frosting that still sat upon his nose. Together, they sat in the brilliant sunshine and watched families go by that included the one that had eluded them. One part of the puzzle that had not come into play. Being born an equestrian of any of the three races means you are a magical creature. One raised in a magical land and one that sees magic as commonplace. Your daily life is filled with magic. Magic makes light appear in darkened rooms with an audible snap. Magic runs the devices that make your life so easy. Magic makes it possible for you to watch movies, to run showing machines, to power blenders and mixers. The very fabric of Equestria is alive with magic. Magic is a very part of the fabric that evolved and has surrounded you since your birth. Rock farmers, those studious geoculturalists, gather magic from the very earth. Vast dams capture the magic that swirls within the waters that rush through the land. Overhead clouds guided by magic sit in your sky. And the very sun that shines down upon you would still be on the other side of this little world if an alicorn, who is the living embodiment of deep magic, had not slid the world around its axis that morning to meet the warmth that it provides. To the equestrians, magic is a part of life. It's a part of their day. It is, in point of fact, a part of themselves. To be an equestrian pony means that you are a magical creature. You know this. You understand it. It is no more surprising to you than knowing that you have ears or hooves. True, the magic differs from pony to pony. Unicorns drape themselves in it, wafted around in visible auras of color and light, before great spells of that amaze and terrify. The Pegasi wear their magic as part of themselves, channel it through their wings to gain the flight that defines their race. They use it to separate the clouds, lift the waters, drive the rains and snows before them, move the weather that dark magic long ago denied this magical land. Earth ponies keep it still and quiet. They wear it as a badge. To them, the magic is eternal and defining. It flows from the land into them, and from them back out into it, giving them their resolve and fortitude. To an earth pony, magic is personal. Their strengths are felt by it as much as they feel it. Return to the land that gives them their name. There are other magics that sit inside each equestrian as much, if not more than those that define the races. The magic defends you against magical diseases, keeps you safe from drifting bits of magic at Vasto that can harm you if you are on the downside of your luck. The magic helps you learn, sitting astride you as your mark. The magic guides you through life, accompanies you until your dying day. It is your companion. It is your friend through your life from the moment of your conception and even before that. The magic is responsible for your birth. It is a truth spoken to foals about whose curiosity about where babies come from has gone beyond what the old pleasant lies about magic mirrors can supplicate. Oh! Generation 1 reference. Oh, they come about through magic. Speak to parents in half-truths, leaving out the icky discussion about biology that most certainly is also required to begin a new life. Yet the magic is fundamental to it. It must play its part. Being an equestrian pony means just that. That you are a pony, not a pony. You are ruled first by thought, then by magic, and lastly your biology. You answer to intellect, not instinct. You're not some wild, soulless prey animal who mindlessly goes a year eating grass and running away at the slightest hint of danger before the few days of estrus take control of your mind and force you to procreate. Your mother did not suddenly go into heat and stand waiting on the street corner to be serviced by a stallion like some feral beast of the field. No, my mom ended up taking care of my dad when he was out of dragon service, and she found him in the lands of the Everfree, and they got together and had me, and 8 years later they had my little brother. It is a gift given to equestrians. That much as a child must be conceived by biology, that the magic too must be answered. Magic is just as fundamental as a part of their lives as having a heart, a mind, and lungs. As every adolescent who has ever had to sit through embarrassing movies in health class knows, the magic must be asked to join the efforts of a couple to produce a child, must be welcomed into the hearts of both before the biology can play its part. That is all it takes. Or the magic to be asked. Was that an act that was simply an act of pleasure and intimacy shared between two parties was now that much more. The magic awakening parts of the mare that, while ready for their function, had not been asked to perform it. That is the great gift given to equestrians, that no child is unwanted, that each, in fact, is pleaded for. That was what Karen and Cupcake had done in the kitchen that day. They had spoken it aloud, said it to themselves, and promised it to each other, admitted aloud that this was now their wish. The magic would have known if they had not said it. Even if it longed for within the heart, it knows. It knows many things. It must decide. Soon, books began to appear around Sugar Cube Corner. One with names like Naming Your Baby, Choosing Your Baby's Name, and How Well in the Guess, what in the Buck Your Baby's Cutie Mark and Special Talent are going to be so you don't saddle the fool with a ridiculous name for the rest of their mortal life. My mom and dad did not read that book. No, my dad was a trendsetter. He named me Legendbreaker because the name was cool. And he named my little brother Rick Hammersteel because he also thought that name was cool. I have a weird family. Catalogs appeared. Ones that featured an array of educational toys. Ones that featured an array of devices and other instruments that Cupcake pondered with increasing interest. Please, she repeated, I want this. I'm ready for this. After days of consideration, Cupcake had finally designated one room. The one at the farthest end of the hall, that the sun kept nice and warm to be the nursery. That Carrot spent whatever time he could moving the furniture, painting the walls a nice happy color, and laying some fine new carpet. He was also laying something else, but we're moving on from that. Of course, once he had done all that, Cupcake changed her mind and designated the middle room, the one closer to their bedroom, as the nursery. With that, once more, he used whatever time he could during the day to once more moving the furniture, once more painting the happy place in a happy color, and once more laying the fine carpet. Please. He said aloud to his tools at the unused portion of the carpet, I want this. I'm ready for this. Soon their secret was out. The news that they were trying to have a foal reached all levels of their family circle, and deep into their network of friends. Soon Cupcake found herself being told what foods she could eat to help her chances, how to do odd things with her hips after their attempts, what exercises she should do. Her mother even volunteered to make her a special soup made of herbs that she was pretty sure were only useful as decorations and for repelling mosquitoes. All of these sounded like old mare's tales, as she looked at each one with deep disbelief. As the month of trying become months, she tried them all religiously. Please, 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 she begged aloud. I'm ready for this. Please, I really am. Honey, sometimes it's just not coming. Like I said, 8-year difference. Me and my little brother. They tried to give me more siblings, but they soon gave up, and then one chill, heartwarming eve, Mom got cold, and several months later, I found out that I have a dragon for a little brother. He's adorable, though. He, too, began reading articles in the backs of magazines that he would never usually consider pursuing. He found one article that announced that muscles would assist his potency. This only resulted in him spending one night monopolizing the bathroom as he discovered his intolerance for certain shellfish. When his small circle of friends found out what he was attempting, first came the usual innuendos about the hard work he was doing. Soon after came genuine advice. One of Kara's friends, whom already had several children, delivered a certain box wrapped in brown paper to Circuit Cube Corner. Upon the box was a note that promised all the items in were indeed guaranteed to work. Upon peering within the box, Carrot and Cupcake looked at another with mounting skepticism. As their nightly attempt drew near, he stood in the bathroom and looked at all the contents once more. To him, it all appeared to be hooey. As he looked at each device, a look of deep doubt fell over him. Yet months had drawn on to seasons, so he determined to try them all. Please, oh please, he said aloud. I want this so much. I want it for her. For us. A few minutes later, Carrot peeked out of the bathroom at her, and slowly revealed himself. Upon him stood all sorts of gadgets and contraptions that promised to assist in every aspect of magical and biological components of conception. As he walked to the bed, he jingled and jangled, chimed and tweeted as metal and plastic and latex spun and flapped. A dozen or so devices covered him, all of them twirling, twisting, and making insincere noises. He stood at the edge of the bed with uncertainty painted across his face. Misgivings played out upon his features as something whirred and something else vibrated enthusiastically. As they stared at one another for a long time, stared across the reach of the bed as the contraptions flipped and flopped, beeped and bopped. As Carrot stood there, he saw Cupcake's hoof come to her mouth. An emotion spread to behind it as he was trying to hide, fighting to keep within. He raised his hoof and stepped forward, worried as he may be upset, or even scared. However, as he buzzed and banged, the various components of his ensemble began to shake and flutter. She lost control of her emotion and began to laugh. She'd been trying to hide her laughter, trying not to embarrass him. It was too much. The sight of her husband like that. He was adorned so ridiculously. He was trying so hard, so willing to make a fool of himself for her, for them. He watched her laugh as a smile spread over his own face, happy to see her this way. She led to him, and together, they laughed absurdly at all, as gadgets tooted, tweeted, and quacked. The ponies simply rocked one another, kissed and looked in the eyes of one another as all sorts of lights went off, and spun as the small spawners spin. I'm trying, Sugar Plum, he said, Carrot, rocking her as something sprung on his head and confetti fell over them. The purpose of the damnable thing beyond either of the guesses. I'm trying so hard for this, to do this. I know, she said while brushing confetti from him and kissing his cheek, his neck, and his chest. I love you so much. Don't stop trying. We can do this. After a moment of deliberation, they decided that the apparatus Carrot was covered with could have a more practical use. Together, their imaginations crafted a delightful bit of impromptu theater. Carrot portrayed a creature from another world, one that carried her off to shake his alien derides as she swooned in his forelegs. From the makers of the Fuckinator 2000, we present to you the Fuckinator 2002, the sequel that never was expected, coming soon in 2034.
Wow. Did you really?
Yep. I said that 10 years.
You, good sir, have a surprising memory. I know. What was the name of your second grade teacher?
I have no idea.
There you have it, folks. You can remember jokes he's done years in the past, story bits he's done years before, but don't ask him little things like what was the name of his teachers in high school.
I remember a few. Ish. Maybe. Sometimes.
He's doing that eye blink again. Yes, Dinobot, he doesn't think we notice when he's lying, but we all do.
While not the intended use of the dubious devices, they both had to admit later that it was certainly an enjoyable and entertaining way to fill the evening. Weeks later, the contraption sat in a nearby garbage can. Cupcake stood in the same bathroom, not nosy, that she contemplated her own body, tried to feel something within her. She took deep breaths, tried to see if she was sick. To her continued frustration, she was not. She was not getting sick in the morning. She looked at herself in the mirror, saw the awareness growing behind her eyes that she was not using the bathroom more than usual. She had no odd cravings. There were no new stretch marks upon her, no red lines hidden beneath her coat. Her body had not changed. It gave her no sign that she would soon have to wear a nursing dress in public. Her body gave no sign her abdomen was growing any larger than her usual roundness. She was not pregnant. 9 months of trying and she was still not pregnant. She had done everything. They had tried so hard. Carrot was trying so hard. They made time. They had made preparations, planned everything. She had sent info, sent them over and over. She was not pregnant. Why? Why? Please, please! She called aloud as she spun around. She kicked out a pile of folded towels and pulled the washcloths at the rack. And once she began to cry, she let the tears roll down her face as she spun around like a wild horse, bucking and kicking as she made unhappy sounds. Please! She demanded, raised as shampoo bottles crashed to the floor and the shaving cream flew across the room. She stood there for a minute, regaining her breath, and letting her face sit upon the rumpled towels. With one hoof over her mouth, she went pelting awkwardly down the stairs into the bakery proper. Carrot was fizzing up, waiting on a customer when she came galloping up to him. She grabbed him by the foreleg and began pulling him towards the kitchen. Honey bun? He said as she pulled down with her gaze upon the floor. He nodded to Breezy as the stallion doffed his cap and went out the door, perhaps knowing that something was about to transpire was right behind his right ear. She pulled into the kitchen, sat down in front of the fireplace, and pushed deep into his chest, desperately seeking the comfort that had always waited her there. He wrapped his forelegs around her and cradled her. He rocked her for long minutes before speaking to her. Did her snap? He asked in quiet tones. Are you okay? She began to speak. She tried to tell him about the new worry that filled her. But instead, words fell from her mouth as a warm huff of emotion stayed upon his chest. The warmth remained there as she wiped her face upon him and tried to speak again. Get it? She said as her voice broke. We need to go see a doctor. Carrot rocked her back and forth some more, drew her tighter to him. Okay, he said as he rested his head next to hers. Okay. A week later, Carrot sat upon the cold examination table. The thin sheet of paper that sat upon it did not protect him from the chill that came up from the metal surface in the slightest. He sighed as he looked around the room. Various charts and models of dangerous bits of reproductive tracts signaling very loudly he was indeed sitting in a fertility clinic. He sighed again and rubbed his eyes. As he did, he whispered a smiling folk. Please, he said as he stared at the door. If it is something wrong with one of us, please let it be me. Silence hung around the room. The various models and diagrams seemed to brood over him, seemed to be questioning his stallionhood. He let them mock him. He only just sat there, begged that it was his fault, that he would not blame herself. With that, the door came open. The doctor nodded to him as he took a seat and laid some more charts before Carrot. Well, began the doctor as he removed his glasses, cleaning them with a fine terry cloth as they hung inside the blue aura of his magic. Your count is in the normal range, and the percentage of healthy gametes are well within average. Carrot's heart sank. With that he swallowed hard and felt himself begin to ask a difficult question for any stallion. It's the reason we're having trouble then. It could be because I'm kind of rather on the smallest side, Carrot. The doctor quickly gave a rut, without looking up from his polished and clean glasses. I saw you, Mr. Cake, said the doctor, his calm professional demeanor for not falling for a second. There's nothing wrong about you biologically that's preventing you from humming fools. Oh no, spoke Carrot. It's a little worse, sliding out over models of diagrams. Cupcake. Whereas you're both here to discover why you're having trouble with conceiving. It does not break my doctor a piece of privilege to tell you, began the doctor, waiting for Carrot to finish swallowing anxiety. To tell you that your wife is entirely healthy as well, that there's no biological reason why she cannot have a foal. He finished as he still worked fiercely as galliasses. The two stallions sat there in the room quietly, the doctor bowing over Smuds, Carrot simply in the haze of thought. Carrot wondered what types of things a fertility doctor might get his glasses on that would sting him so. Carrot shook his head to drive the thought from him. Then, stammered Carrot as his voice gave simple truth to hunger in the room. It has to be magical, right? The doctor finished cleaning his glasses and placed them back on his face. He blinked and turned towards Carrot.
Yes,
the doctor said, as he painted a professional smile and gathered up some of the clipboards that he had brought with him.
That's the only other real reason that presents itself. And unfortunately, it's the one we could do the least about.
The doctor flipped through some of the papers and directed his magic across the room to gather up a pencil.
Let me ask you some questions about your personal magic, Mr. Cake,
said the doctor as he began to scratch away.
You do wish to have children, yes? You've internalized that.
Oh, yes, answered Carrot. That's the other day I caught myself rocking a loaf of bread like I baked a foal in my arms and singing a lullaby. Carrot mimicked the actions as a great smirk went across his face. To surprise the doctor joining his pantomime, leading the figurative bakery-based baby.
Congratulations,
intoned the doctor.
It's a pumpernickel.
The two stallions laughed small laughs. It was the first time that Carrot had seen the unicorn do so during all that long morning and early afternoon. All too soon, the doctor turned his back to a clipboard, face going somber as he asked a few more questions. Carrot answered quickly, precisely, until one was reached.
Are you currently,
asked the doctor as he went straight back to his highly professional distance tone,
engaged, or any time in the past have you been engaged in an extramarital affair?
No, answered Carrot. Oh, Celestia, no.
It's part of the tackless, Mr. Cake,
intoned the doctor as he looked at Carrot over his glasses, drawing Carrot back down to stillness before returning to his chart.
Such infidelity interrupts the magic. Studies have proven it, and we must eliminate all possible causes.
The doctor looked back at the Carrot. He saw the lingering question that hung there. The same fear that sits behind the eyes of all stallions when such a stallion floated over the room. The doctor cleared his throat and leaned forward.
So, doctor-patient privilege prevents me from distributing confidential information about any of my clients,
he said while looking Carrot directly in the eye.
I could tell you without reservation that I could eliminate that particular reason from our list of possible causes for both of you, and I'm very happy for the two of you as well.
The two nodded back and forth. I never even thought of that, said Carrot as his eyes fell back to the floor. It never even crossed my mind. The doctor nodded again and looked at the charts once more. Silence hung over the small examination room. But, spoke Carrot, if it hasn't happened yet, us getting pregnant, does that mean the chance it may never happen?
Yes, but then again it may. The magic has its own reasons, its own schedules and own motivations,
said the doctor where he put the pencil aside.
All I could say at this time is, keep trying.
Carrot's head dropped.
I'd soon like to take a look at your genetic histories,
he said as his magic flipped through the pages.
There's some pretty engaging theories about how genetics and magic interplay. There are also well-known syndromes and complications that may arise from...
The doctor looked up from the clipboard. Stopped speaking, he saw Carrot's eyes sitting upon a cutaway model of a mare, heavy with foal. Doctor, asked Carrot. His voice sounded worried and strained. Is it true that the mare usually blames herself? Usually accuses herself when the magic fails? The doctor put aside the clipboards, and then with a compassionate glance leaned forward again.
I'm no psychologist, Mr. Cake. But my experience, that is common,
he said as he rubbed his toes together.
The magic involves both parents, but it's mare's biology that's the most moved. Very often, yes, they take the responsibility upon themselves.
I want to be with her, said Carrot immediately, standing and staring at the floor. Right now. I want to be with her right now.
Of course,
answered the doctor, putting aside all the trays and clipboards and opening the door.
Of course.
The doctor began leading him down the hallway, past rooms where desperate-looking couples surrounded by foals talking euphemisms about preventing further abundance. The unfairness of it stung at Carrot as he realized what she must be feeling. While that horror grew in him, he began to canter and trot, the doctor struggling to keep up with him as his lab coat ruffled around him. And once they arrived at the door, the doctor opened it. As the two stallions stood there looking at her, Cookie dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Nearby, a waste paper basket having grown full of them. She looked up at him, The hospital gown from her demanding more examination crinkled as he looked back and forth between them.
Is it because I'm around?
She asked, her voice weak and withdrawn. Unless Carrot was with her, his hose was upon the table. He was leaning into her, running his face along hers as her tears caught within his coat.
Suffice it to say, he went back home to the bakery.
Suffice it to say, the rest of the day passed quietly, that their dinner was only filled with embarrassing conversation. Suffice it to say, she went upstairs early, and he followed along, knowing that tonight would be hard for her. Suffice it to say, that they lay upon the bed together. As the night drew on, all Carrot could do for her was wrap her in his forelegs and tug her deeper to the crux of his body. All that Carrot could do was draw his hose through her mane and cross her shoulders as she began to cry. All he could think to do, as her small sobs filled the room, was kiss her neck and cheek, tell her over and over how much he loved her. The only thing he could do for her as they lay there in the dark was tell her how beautiful she was, and that he would never stop trying to make her happy. Cupcake heard all of these things, knew in her heart that he meant them. Despite she could not stop her tears. They kept flowing, and before her eyes the figure of a little Earth Pony cult seemed to share them, as though it somehow knew that it would now never be made real. Under his mind's eye, the cult left the room. As it left them, it carried away all the hopes he had, all the dreams he had shared. Their hopes of their love being made physical seemed to wash away with the little cult, following him down the stairs. As the tears fell from her, she imagined the cult dripping, his little cries carrying away him baby names, thoughts about diaper bags, teething rings, and milk bottles. He looked back up the stairs and cried for her, but she could not follow. With that, the cult gave a small sob and stepped outside, dissipating from her thoughts and leaving the bakery once again quiet and still. With that, they lost the second round of the game of this. They decided over the next week to tell their parents and family of their difficulty on the same day, at the same time even, simply to be done with this terrible incident. Although it ripped at Carrot not to be with her when she told her family that the magic was not answering them, there was a very real chance they may never have children. Carrot respected her choice. Carrot trusted to her decisions as they always had. They kissed beneath the doorway, touched their cheeks together. When they went off to their childhood homes to drop the simple, horrible truth upon their families. Cheesecake's face ran with tears as her son told her the fact there may never be grandchildren in her life. She gathered the amber-coated son to her and brought him as best as she could, despite how much taller than he was. For Cheesecake, there would be no second chance. That's what she was feared. No redemption through the children of her child. No chance to be a grandmother, to redeem the years that she had wasted on not being a mother. Her tears for her son and daughter-in-law grew grayer as Carrot lowered his head over his mother. At the bakehouse on the other side of town, Cupcake's nieces and nephews were ushered outside to play in the autumn air around the garden as the hint of bad news flew through the eyes of the adults within. As soon as Cupcake began to speak, she broke down. As she cried, her mother, father, and sisters held her. Though all of them felt for her and were worried for her, only one's mind flew to places he thought were already extinguished. In his mind, all worries opened up, ones that centered on his family. His family must be allowed to defend. With that, he kissed his daughter, and under the guise of checking upon his grandchildren, he slipped back down to the streets of Ponyville, his thunder hose crashing upon the cobblestones as he tried towards the familiar building. Carrot had returned to Sugar Cube Corner earlier, just as he had expected. He knew it would not take him long to break the news to his mother, as Cupcake would take with her family. He had returned home first, even though he had made a single stop. He placed what he collected into the bottom of the cash register, that he would keep it there until the time seemed right, or else he discovered them first. Either way, he did not anticipate looking at them again soon. He checked the pies, cakes, the cannoli stack, and the pastries. They were all still there, as though nothing had changed. The bell rang upon the door, sliding it under the counter. Carrot looked up, glad for the distraction of having a customer drawing his mind out of his thoughts.
"Hello, welcome to Sugar Cube,"
he began. The face of Quarry stared back at him, passing in distance.
"Mr. Quarry, sir,"
said Carrot. "I did. Cupcake catch you before? Before you came here? We have some news."
I heard it, Cake,
said his father-in-law. Corey so settled down as he looked around the showcase room and turned back to face the Emperor Stallion around the corner. Corey ran his hoe through his mane, looked at Carrot over the bridge of his nose.
She's up there right now. The mare's all crying and whimpering. How is it that you're here, Cake?
Carrot startled, looked at Corey as the massive stallion eyed with him with an expression Carrot couldn't name. I went to tell my mother, he answered.
How's she take it?
Asked Corey as he took a few steps closer. Not good, answered Carrot. Not terribly well at all.
Are you going to leave her?
Came the voice of the stallion. The low rumble Carrot had heard upon their first meeting at the mill. It was a demand for retrieval of information. Cold, impersonal, dangerous. What? Who? My mother? Asked Carrot, not understanding the question in the least. The very context of it escaping him.
Cupcake!
Answered Corey as he stumped one of his hoes to the wooden floor, making a display of cases rattle and distant cupcake fall on the floor. What? Sir, I can't even... said Carrot's disgust flew through him as he realized what this immense stand was implying.
Are you gonna leave my little cupcake, Cake? You're gonna take off on her because you can't give your foals?
Said Corey as his face began to twist, the redness growing in his eyes. Yet it was not rage that hung there. None of the wrath that Carrot had seen upon Corey before. It was worry. It was deeply pronounced worry and fear. Wait, I can still have falls. It's just the doctor said that... Carrot stammered. Corey's host slammed to the floor. His eyes coming to light as he clattered over his mask, struck the pillars, made a carefully arranged cannoli stack come toweling down.
Answer the fucking question, Cake. I'm trying my hardest to stay civil, and I'm trying not to get mad. But I need to know what in the world you're gonna do. Are you gonna leave my little cupcake?
Roared Corey with his maid tossing around him. And the most filled Carrot as he sat under Corey's glare. Well, he did not have to feel. One that did not make up a large part of his life. Yet with this stallion, this pony he only wanted to respect him was accusing him of. It burned behind Carrot's eyes. The emotion filled him. With that, Carrot became angry. Very, very angry.
Fuck you hard, Corey! Fuck you hard!
He screamed as he tore the cap from his head and flung it across the room. I'm not some udder-sucking little breeder who's only in this for my chains! He roared, leaning forward to the glare of his father-in-law. For 2 years, all I've wanted for you was to figure out what I'm fucking living for her, that she's my world! I know you grew up pretty damn well screwed over, but I had no idea how deep in the well you've been bucked if you can't see that! Carrot bashed his hose against the cash register, flung the cash drawer aside to reveal pamphlets he had placed there only moments before. As the bid sounded across the floor, he tossed the pamphlets in front of Corey, pointing them out as he glared at the immense stallion. Foster parenting, adoption! He cried. I'm trying everything, you damn old goat licker! All I want for her is to be happy. That's all I've wanted since that day I first saw her in the mill. I'm trying everything. You want to see what's in the garbage can in the upstairs room? You won't like it! Corey's eyes shifted back and forth over the pamphlets as the underbiting stallion grumbled on, growing weaker as his rant continued. As Cake began to lose steam, Corey realized that the gangly stallion had now surpassed the combined time of all who had dared yell at him since he was 12 years old. He listened with a cold glare as Carrot slowly fell out of his tirade and began to fall exhausted over the counter. As he looked over the stallion, an emotion moved inside Corey. I just want to make her happy. That's all I've ever wanted, finished Carrot. I hope you fucking see that by now, you old bastard. All I want is for you to know that. That's all I've ever wanted from you. Carrot looked up to see Corey still staring down at him. Something hidden in his cold glare. In that moment, Carrot realized he had been yelling at Corey. In his mind, he pictured his not-ending yell. As a sudden rustling movement, Carrot opened his eyes to the particular sense that he was flying. The large old stallion began to make a noise, one that sat somewhere between a sigh wrapped in a sob and encased in a bawl. Corey stood on his hind legs, wrist remained almost pressing the ceiling of the bakery. Carrot felt himself wrapped in the most uncomfortable hug he ever experienced in his life. Carrot's rear legs sat upon and lay on the counter, his stomach and battle hovering in the air. His chest and head were pressed up against the large frame of Corey. Corey was standing and stanced his hooves, The loud sound ringing out around the room. Carrot felt himself begin to slip. As he did, his forelegs went to the only place he could, around the neck of the stallion, and to his withers, embracing his father-in-law in one of, not the, most awkward hugs in equestrian history.
I just want her to be safe,
Snored Quarry as the sounds of the hybrid emotion reached out and over them.
Can't bring myself to ever really believe at some point. Don't want something from her. From us.
Carrot, firmly buried in a mammoth stallion's chest, hung there wide-eyed and attempted to pat Quarry on the back.
Couldn't make sense of it at all. Of you.
Continued Quarry while he rocked Carrot back and forth.
I ain't so stupid I can't see it. I had to ask you. Need to get in your head.
Carrot didn't sell the point of Quarry's visit. He needed to see Carrot's love for his daughter again. To prove himself that love was real, outside the small definition he set for himself. Quarry had needed it to be real, in places other than behind the gates of the fortress he had built.
I just needed to say it again. To know it, Carrot. Oh, Celestia. I'm sorry, Carrot. You're so good to her. So good to my little cupcake. You're a good son, Carrot. You're a good son.
Quarry continued, nearly crushing Carrot as he wrapped him deeper in his embrace. Everything about the statement swam through Carrot. The way he called him Carrot instead of Cake. The way he had admitted that he saw their love, subtilized the causality that bound him to Cupcake. The way that he left out in law and only called Carrot son. No stallion ever called Carrot son. Ever. Quarry pulled Carrot generously over the counter to help him to his hose. As the day wore away, the two stallions stood there as emotions flew between them. Mr. Quarry, sir, began Carrot.
Damn it, old Carrot!
Interrupted Quarry as his jaw shifted back and forth before saying with a smile,
Just call me Quarry.
Quarry, said Carrot, returning the smile. At that moment, the bell above the door rang. Cupcake entered the sight of her husband and father standing there, with tears upon their faces. The cash registers flung open, various baked goods having fallen from the racks. Wait, what's going on? She asked as Carrot dove for the carrot tot, seemed to tuck some pamphlets away. Same time, Quarry seemed to hide a fallen cupcake, apparently by stomping upon it so hard it vaporized.
Nothing,
called the two youths, and fake smiles appearing on their otherwise tearful faces. She eyed them dubiously. That had been a hard day, hard on many fronts. They laid upon the bed together as their mattress shifted beneath their weight. The nightly attempts had ended that night after they come home from the doctor. For the last week, all that she wanted was to lie with her hose wrapped in his. So Carrot did just that, trying to draw her pain. Cupcake stood and left the bed to go sit in front of the window. She stared across Ponyville, the moonlight casting across the thatched roofs of the little city. He watched her sitting there in the moonbeams. Her soft tones were muted in the darkness of the bedroom. It seems like somehow she had shrunk over those last few days hard that accumulated what revealed to her family. Carrot spun and rested his body across the foot of the bed, began to speak to her softly. Yes, he said. It had not gone as he planned or as he wished. They had a right to be sad. They had so many wonderful hopes, and pictured how it might look. He lifted his head and spoke to her as he still peered out the window. No fault here, no blame. There was something beyond their control, something which he had no power. This was something he was not afraid of. Cupcake turned and looked at him. There she saw her husband's head upon the mattress, peering up to her with consoling eyes. He was not afraid, he said, because he was going through this hard time with him. The only way he would ever be afraid was if she was somehow not here, that she would go somewhere without him. She turned around fully, laid her head upon the bed so she looked into his eyes as he spoke. Their marriage, their love, it was a journey, one that pleased to go on with her, one that had already led them to so many wonderful places. Yes, one border had been shut to them. One place they strived to reach had been closed off and put out of their grasp. They would put away the baby name books and few toys. They would repackage their crib, if just for now, but the journey itself would go on. She leaned forward and gave him a tiny kiss. There were so many places, he told her, that this journey could take them. And wherever you want to go, he said, repeating a promise first spoken in that room, I'll go there with you. She stood and looked down as she lay there, smiling to her gently. Oh, And where do you think we should go first? She said, peering down with a wicked little smile that he adored. Where does the journey go from there? How about... He said as he looked at himself to her. How about we start by exploring the great and unknown continent as our bed? Remember, folks, if you ever see somebody out there try to tell you with a straight face that there's no conflict to be had after you get a couple married, call them out on their bullshit, because as you can see, there's a lot of conflict after the couple gets together. Her laughter rang out around the darkened room. It continuously wiped her hoof across his face. The comment had been ridiculous, but spoken just so, and his smile still reached for her. How could she refuse to partake in such a daring expedition? And with that, the end. You know, a lot of big events happened over the course of 10 years. You've already known them. Elections and stuff like that. You might notice that the show has never really commented on them, either through jokes, snarks, or if I had some sort of Twitter post or Facebook post or did something on Discord where I say, I've heard about the event that happened today. It was so tragic. Here, let me give you out all of my politics. And you'll know I've never done that. Why? Because I don't think this channel's for it. I don't think this channel is made for that kind of crap. It's made for comedy, for stories. They're telling you guys cool and fun things like ponies going off on an epic adventure, or ponies having epic romances, that kind of thing. It's not made for me to get on a soapbox and describe to you what politics I've got. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's important what type of politics I got. All I'm here for is just to tell you guys if this is good or not. If you ever hear me do a small little snide reference to saying like, oh, Kylo Ren's an idiot, that's because I generally think Kylo Ren's a bad character and I like making fun of him. Well, that's me. I'm not trying to make a statement or anything. I'm just picking what joke sounds to me the most funny and try to give you guys the best laugh. So yeah, you'll never, ever hear a single political word off of this channel.